A small-town teacher wrote a letter to Clint Eastwood asking for career advice she could share with her struggling students. Today's celebrities send autographed photos. Clint sent a bus. And what happened when that bus arrived at a tiny rural school changed 32 lives forever and revealed something about old Hollywood that modern fame has completely forgotten. Sarah Mitchell had been teaching English and film studies at Whitefish High School in rural Montana for 15 years. The school served a community of just under 3,000 people, most of them working-class families, where multi-generational poverty was the norm. Many of her students had never traveled more than 50 miles from home. College seemed like an impossible dream. Hollywood might as well have been on another planet. Sarah taught film appreciation from textbooks published in the 1980s because the school couldn't afford new ones. Her classroom had one television, one DVD player, and a collection of films she'd purchased with her own money over the years. When she taught Clint Eastwood's work, Unforgiven, Million Dollar Baby, Gran Torino, her students were captivated. These weren't just movies to them. They were windows into a world they'd never see. In the spring of 2016, Sarah noticed something troubling. Her senior film class, 32 students, had started talking about their futures with a resignation that broke her heart. "There's no point applying to film school." One student said, "People like us don't get those jobs." Another said, "Hollywood is for rich kids from California, not for kids from Montana who have never even seen an ocean." Sarah tried to encourage them, but she understood their perspective. She'd grown up in rural Montana herself. She knew how big the world looked from a small town, how impossible dreams seemed when you'd never met anyone who'd achieved them. That's when she got an idea that seemed equally impossible. She would write to Clint Eastwood. She spent a week crafting the letter, trying to find the right words. She didn't want money. She didn't want autographs. She just wanted something she could share with her students. Some advice, some encouragement, maybe a few sentences about how someone from humble beginnings could make it in Hollywood. The letter was 3 paragraphs long, handwritten on simple notebook paper. She explained who she was, where she taught, and what her students were facing. She ended with a simple request. "If you have any advice for young people who love film but don't think they have a chance, I would be honored to share it with my students." They need to hear from someone who made it that the dream is possible. She mailed the letter to Clint's production company, Malpazzo Productions, with no real expectation of a response. Maybe she'd get a form letter back from an assistant. Maybe nothing at all. That was okay. At least she'd tried. 6 weeks passed. Sarah had almost forgotten about the letter when her phone rang one Tuesday afternoon in May. She was grading papers in her classroom after school when an unfamiliar number appeared on her screen. "Is this Sarah Mitchell?" a woman's voice asked. "Yes, this is Sarah." "Miss Mitchell, my name is Jennifer Cole. I'm a production coordinator with Malpazzo Productions. I'm calling about a letter you sent to Mr. Eastwood." Sarah's heart started racing. "Oh, yes. I didn't expect, thank you for calling. I understand he's busy." "Ms. Mitchell," Jennifer interrupted gently. "Mr. Eastwood read your letter personally. He'd like to speak with you. Are you available now?" Before Sarah could answer, a different voice came on the line, a voice she recognized immediately. That distinctive growly tone she'd played for her students 100 times. "Mitchell, this is Clint Eastwood." Sarah literally couldn't speak for a moment. When she finally found her voice, all she could manage was, "Mr. Eastwood, I can't believe you're calling." "I got your letter," Clint said. "Read it 3 times. You've got 32 students who think Hollywood doesn't want them." "Yes, sir. They're talented kids, but they don't see a path forward." "Tell me about them. What do they love? What are they good at?" For the next 20 minutes, Sarah told Clint about her students. About Emma, who wanted to be a cinematographer but had never held a professional camera. About Marcus, who wrote screenplays on his phone because he couldn't afford a computer. About Jamie, who could edit videos on free software better than some professionals, but thought she'd never get hired without a degree. Clint listened to every word. Then he said something that made Sarah sit down at her desk because her legs went weak. "Here's what's going to happen. I'm sending a team to your school. They're going to bring equipment, cameras, lighting, sound gear, editing stations, not borrowed, yours to keep." They're going to run a week-long intensive workshop teaching your students how to make a real film. And at the end of that week, your students are going to have a completed short film with their names on it as crew. Real credits they can put on college applications or resumes. Sarah started crying. She couldn't help it. Mr. Eastwood, I don't know what to say. Say yes and get those kids ready to work hard. We start in 3 weeks. 3 weeks later, on a Monday morning in June, 3 trucks pulled up in front of Whitefish High School. The entire town seemed to have heard something was happening, and people lined the streets to watch. Out of those trucks came 2 Hollywood professionals, a cinematographer who'd worked on 3 Clint Eastwood films, and a sound designer who'd won an Emmy along with tens of thousands of dollars worth of film equipment. Sarah's 32 students stood in the parking lot, stunned into silence. "All right," the cinematographer said, a woman named Rachel Chen. "Mr. Eastwood sent us here because he thinks you've got what it takes to make something great. You've got 5 days. We're making a short film. You're the crew. Who's ready to work?" What happened over the next 5 days became legendary in Whitefish, Montana. Those 32 students worked from 7:00 in the morning until 10 at night. They learned how to operate professional cameras, how to set up three-point lighting, how to record clean audio, how to edit footage on professional software. They wrote a screenplay together about a small town student who dreams of leaving but discovers something worth staying for. They cast local actors. They scouted locations around Whitefish. They shot, directed, produced, and edited a 15-minute film called The Distance Home. Rachel and the sound designer didn't do the work for them. They taught, guided, corrected mistakes, and pushed the students to do better. "Mr. Eastwood doesn't believe in participation trophies," Rachel told them. "If your name goes on this film, it needs to be good enough that you're proud of it for the rest of your life." On Friday night, they held a premiere at the local theater. The entire town showed up. Over 800 people packed into a venue designed for 300. They screamed "The Distance Home," and when it ended, the theater erupted in applause. Sarah's students stood on stage, many of them crying, all of them transformed by the experience. But that wasn't the end of the story. That was just the beginning. The equipment Clint had sent stayed at Whitefish High School. Sarah's film program went from having one TV and a DVD player to having a complete production studio. But more importantly, Clint had established a partnership. Every year for the next 8 years, Malpazzo Productions sent professionals to Whitefish to run the intensive workshop. Every year, a new group of students made a new film. And every year, Clint personally reviewed the finished work and sent feedback. But the most remarkable thing Clint did was this. He created a scholarship fund specifically for Whitefish High School film students. Not a huge publicized fund that made headlines. Just a quiet commitment that any student from Sarah Mitchell's program who got accepted to film school would have their tuition covered. No applications, no competition, just a promise. If you work hard enough to get in, we'll make sure you can go. Over 8 years, 17 students from Whitefish, Montana attended film school on Clint Eastwood scholarship. None of them knew about it until they received their acceptance letters and found scholarship notifications attached. The scholarship letters were simple. "Congratulations on your acceptance. Your tuition has been covered by a private scholarship fund established for graduates of the Whitefish High School film program. Work hard. Make something meaningful. Pay it forward when you can." Emma, the girl who wanted to be a cinematographer, graduated from USC's film school in 2020. She's now working as a camera operator on major productions. Marcus, who wrote screenplays on his phone, got his MFA in screenwriting from NYU. His first feature screenplay was purchased by a studio in 2023. James, the editor, works for a major post-production house in Los Angeles and has credits on films Sarah's current students watch in class. But here's the part of the story that reveals who Clint Eastwood really is. Sarah Mitchell didn't know about the scholarship fund. Not at first. Clint had set it up through a private foundation with instructions that his name not be attached to it publicly. Sarah only found out 3 years later when one of her former students called her crying, saying, "Mrs. Mitchell, somebody paid for my entire college. I don't understand. Who would do that?" Sarah called Malpazzo Productions, and after some persistent questions, Jennifer Cole finally confirmed what Sarah had suspected. Mr. Eastwood wanted to help, but he didn't want recognition. He just wanted your students to have a chance. When Sarah tried to thank him, Clint's response was simple. Those kids earned it. All I did was remove one obstacle. They did the rest. The story of what Clint did for Whitefish High School eventually got out. A local newspaper reporter wrote about it in 2019, and the story went viral. People couldn't believe that a Hollywood legend had quietly funded film education for rural Montana students for nearly a decade without seeking any publicity. The article sparked a conversation about celebrity philanthropy and what separates genuine impact from public relations. Because Clint's approach was fundamentally different from how most modern celebrities operate. He didn't announce the donation on social media. He didn't attend a ribbon-cutting ceremony. He didn't pose for photos with students to boost his image. He just did the work quietly, consistently year after year. In interviews about the program, Clint's explanation was characteristically straightforward. Sarah Mitchell wrote me a letter asking for advice to share with her students. The best advice I could give them was practical. Here are the tools. Here's the training. Here's the opportunity. Now show me what you can do with it. That's not charity. That's investment in people who are willing to work. Today, there's a plaque in the film studio at Whitefish High School. It doesn't mention Clint Eastwood by name. It simply reads, dedicated to the belief that talent exists everywhere, but opportunity does not. May every student who enters this room find both. Sarah Mitchell retired in 2024 after 30 years of teaching. At her retirement party, 17 of her former students returned to Whitefish to honor her. They'd come from Los Angeles, New York, Atlanta, places they'd once thought were impossibly far away. They brought with them a gift, a professionally produced documentary about Mrs. Mitchell's program, featuring interviews with students whose lives had been changed by a single letter and a Hollywood legend who believed in answering it with more than just words. The documentary ended with a clip none of them had seen before. It was Clint Eastwood speaking directly to the camera, recorded specifically for Sarah's retirement. Sarah, he said, you wrote me a letter asking for advice for your students, but the truth is, you taught me something. You showed me that the best thing someone with resources can do is find people like you. Teachers who believe in kids everyone else has written off and give you the tools to prove those kids were worth believing in all along. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for caring enough to write that letter. And thank you for reminding me what this work is really for. The message of Sarah Mitchell's story isn't about celebrity generosity, though Clint's actions were certainly generous. It's about a different philosophy of fame and success that seems to be disappearing from modern culture. It's about the difference between celebrities who use philanthropy for publicity and people who use their resources to create lasting change without needing recognition for it. It's about receiving thousands of letters and taking the time to read one from a teacher in Montana. It's about understanding that real impact isn't measured in social media posts, but in the lives quietly transformed over years of sustained commitment. And it's about remembering that when someone asks for advice, sometimes the best response isn't words. It's action, opportunity, and a long-term investment in proving that the dream is possible after all. Today's celebrities send autographed photos. Clint Eastwood sent a bus, a film crew, professional equipment, 8 years of training programs, and 17 full-ride scholarships. And he did it all without a press release, without a photo op, and without expecting anything in return, except that those 32 students and everyone who came after them would work hard and make something meaningful. That's not just generosity. That's integrity. And it's something modern fame seems to have forgotten how to do. If this story of quiet dedication and the power of answering one letter with sustained action moved you, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. Share this with a teacher who changed your life, or with someone who needs to know that there are still people who do the right thing without needing applause. Have you ever received help from someone who didn't need recognition for it? Share your story in the comments, and don't forget to ring that notification bell for more incredible true stories about the values that build old Hollywood and the people who still live by.